What is up, y'all? It is a Tuesday night. Welcome to the crossover. We're getting straight to it. This is crossover with Ryno and Connor. We've been doing a couple shows lately together. It's been fun talking Kings. Connor, what's up tonight, buddy?
Not much. Just happy about how the Kings have played so far and looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah. Can you believe they're up 2-0? That's like hard to believe still. It's like pinch me. What the hell is going on?
Yeah, it's crazy that they're up 2-0 on the defending champs, but it's going to be a lot harder on the road these next two.
Do you see? We'll get into that. We will get into that because obviously, I mean, at the beginning of the series, we both talked about this. Kings terrible. Well, not terrible. Not very good at home, right? Much better on the road. They conquered that beast a little bit in the first two games, and now they head out to where they feel usually the most comfortable, the road. So it's an interesting intersection for them. But anyways, Kings take down the Warriors in game two, 114-106. What an exciting game and a lot to really kind of digest. What did you think about that first quarter, Conman?
Yeah, it was definitely a lot less scoring than we were expecting coming in, with the Kings put up only 17 points and didn't seem like they can put the ball in the ocean from three. They were 0 of 10 to start from distance, so it definitely took them a while to get into the groove of this game.
Yeah, it's kind of the start that I worry about with them because I've said many times I don't want to see them come out and just shoot threes, and that's what they did in this game. I think they shot 0 for 10 from three-point land for their first 10 shots. Not 10 shots altogether, but first 10 threes, and that was all in the first quarter. They eventually ended up getting going, but Golden State, man, I mean, could you be sloppier with basketball than those guys?
Yeah, it's awful, and we knew they were worst in the league in turnovers in the regular season, but I think a lot of people expected them to clean it up a little bit in the playoffs, and such a veteran team like that with Steph Curry and stuff, just strange how sloppy they've been and the decisions they've made, especially early in games.
See, but Connor, why would you? So this is kind of that interesting question, right? Why would you expect them to be better in the playoffs if they played 82 games that way?
I guess it just usually you think of the playoffs, it's just much higher level than the regular season, especially with everyone giving it their all, defensive intensity and stuff like that. But I mean, the Warriors in the playoffs, they've done everything that you can do in the playoffs. So I guess I just expected more from them in terms of making the right pass and taking care of the ball when they've been there so many times.
Yeah, they play fast, right? And they have won 4 of the 8 championships in the last 8 years, champions 4 times. Definitely a dynasty. So you'd think they would kick into that extra gear. So I do somewhat agree with you there. Really interesting. Mike Brown, this surprised me in the first quarter. He played 11 guys. I was a little bit caught off guard that he was searching that hard to find something, especially bringing in Terrence Davis. That was one that kind of I wasn't sure about. What did you think about that move?
Yeah, I think we both kind of had the same opinion on Davis heading into the playoffs, that he wasn't really going to be a part of the rotation. But starting 0 of 10 from three in the first quarter, I think he was just looking for somebody to come in and hit a couple shots. But obviously, he kind of pulled the plug on that quickly and went to Edwards, and some of the other guys like Monk started to produce.
Yeah, you know what? And we'll get into Davion here in a second. I was thinking, and we've talked about this a couple times already, that they were going to go to Edwards a little bit more defensively, right? And they haven't. But Davion Mitchell, who, like I said, we'll get to in a few minutes. Holy moly, he's been spectacular. Matt's got a comment. Matt says, if TD plays 20 plus Kings in 4, I completely disagree with you, Matt. Connor, what do you think about Matt's comment?
Yeah, it's a pretty bad observation. Obviously, it's probably a troll, but Terrence Davis, we've seen spurts of him. He's a streaky like Monk, but much less consistent than he is, and doesn't bring a lot much else than his volume shooting. So I obviously disagree with that.
Yeah, Matt, and we appreciate you tuning in, brother. Just Terrence Davis, the volume shooting, like Connor said, He's a little bit out of control. I mean, he would fit in better with the Warriors at this point, with the way that they're playing, and just also bad decision making with the basketball. Even with him coming in trying to throw alley oops in that limited time that he got, it was surprising, but wasn't surprising, right? So, anyways, but then second quarter, what happens? It turns into Malik Monk time. The Kings explode for 41. I mean, has Malik Monk been the star of the series so far off the bench?
Yeah, certainly. He's elevated his game so much from the regular season, which was already really good season that he had put together. And it seems like in the playoffs, he's really that third scorer off the bench for this team. And when guys like Keegan Murray and Kevin Herter aren't necessarily hitting their shots, he's making great threes, tough threes, and making a lot of plays as well.
Yeah, he's been nearly unstoppable, and he's just kind of got that swag about him, right? Like when he comes on, like it's almost you can tell two different Maliks. There's the Malik is always kind of hard to tell, but you can sometimes see when he's got that like stroll, like he knows it's going to be his night. And these first two games have definitely been that. He has not been apprehensive. He has not been shy. Very decisive with his decision making and shot taking. But then also Alex Len. I mean, we keep bringing up this name. Alex Len has given this team such good minutes off the bench.
Yeah, and I have to interrupt you because I just saw breaking news that Draymond Green has been suspended for Game 3.
Wow, breaking news here on the crossover. So there were reports earlier in the day. Connor, I'm going to kick it to you. Why don't you outline what we heard earlier in the day and what we're hearing right now?
Yeah, we heard earlier on Listen App that Sham Sharania of The Athletic, one of the most credible guys, was saying that it was going to be pretty unlikely that he'd be suspended and that he'd get a hefty fine, but turns out we just got a notification that he's going to be suspended for Game 3, so obviously that changes the whole structure of this series and the whole game plan that the Warriors use in the playoffs usually. So, I mean, that's huge news and it's surprising, and it's good to see Adam Silver finally make a decision that seems to be a good one.
You know what? Adam Silver, I salute you. Thank you for growing a set. I mean, do you think it makes any difference that Adam Silver was there to see it in person? Because I think watching from New York, and obviously Joe Dumars handles a lot of that stuff as well, but to see that in person, to see Draymond egging on the crowd, I mean, it somewhat turned into like a WWE like heel promo. The guy, he should have been ejected just for his actions during the review, you know. But yeah, this changes everything, and all these people that are talking about, well, you know, it's Domas's fault because he grabbed his leg and he shouldn't have grabbed his leg. That's Bush. Here's the deal. That was a crowded lane, and those are a lot of big athletic dudes down there. And if your head and your entire body's on the ground, you're going to look to kind of grab onto something to let them know you're there so you don't get hurt. I mean, it's just a professional courtesy. It's like guys going to the hoop and you don't undercut them, or you're not supposed to. So I think really that's what Domas was trying to do. But when you look at that play, Connor, Draymond got his leg out, and then he pumped it back up and brought it back down.
Yeah, it was just a disgrace, the whole situation. I was one of the people that also thought that Sabonis was just protecting his face there. He didn't care what was in his way if Draymond's leg was there. I mean, NBA players of that size are right above him with their legs towering over them, and he's on the ground. He's going to do what he can to protect his face. I mean, it's just kind of an instinct thing. And even if people say that he grabbed it on purpose and stuff and had such a dirty play and stuff, Domantas Sabonis is not a dirty player. Draymond Green is known for being a dirty player. He loses his emotions and he winds up and he basically stomps on Sabonis and then uses his chest as a launching pad to get back down the court. I mean, that's just embarrassing. Two completely different actions, and Adam Silver, he finally got something right.
He absolutely got something right. We'll see what this does. So Matt thinks this could be an advantage for the Warriors. I don't actually disagree with that. sure, it limits them down low, and maybe this is where the Kings try to take that physicality to the Warriors a little bit more, because I think there is an advantage there with Looney not really being a shot blocker. Kuminga, he cannot hang with Len, and he can't hang with Domas. But is this the rallying cry? Is this the thing that kicks the Warriors into gear?
Yeah, I think it could go one of two ways. That it, like I kind of thought the ejection last night, Draymond could have been the moment that kind of changed the momentum towards Golden State, but it didn't at all. And then I could also see this being a possible advantage for Sacramento too, because now you just have Kevon Looney is basically the only big on that team that can contend down low, Sabonis, and this could be just basically a window of opportunity for the Kings to possibly go in, win Game 3, and then you have to win one of the next four. So if they're gonna split at Golden State, Game 3 is your opportunity to do it.
Yeah, Grant has been giving me a hard time because when we did our predictions, I said that the Kings would win both games at the Chase Center. And I'm going to stand by that. And I actually had the Kings splitting with the Warriors at home. Obviously, we know that was wrong in a good way. But do you think there's any possibility this series does not come back to Sacramento?
I'd find it pretty hard to believe, but I mean, it was pretty hard to believe to see this team go up 2-0 at home. I mean, a lot of people had Warriors in 6, including myself, until I changed it to Kings in 7. But it's pretty incredible that what this team has been able to accomplish, and now you kind of get that glimmer of hope. You basically get a gift from the NBA. Obviously, it's well deserved, but you get a we could call it a break that Draymond's going to be out, and obviously, yeah, it could be a turning point for Golden State to kind of rally together and get some wins at home, but it could also go the opposite and kind of hit them right in the face and be the reason their season ends.
Yeah, because Draymond does so many little things. One, he's a tone setter. Let's put it that way. No matter how much you can't stand the guy, he is very good at getting under people's skin. He's that one guy on what that I think every team needs to have. But he does a lot of things that do not show up on the stat sheet. And there's not another player on their roster that can fill that role. Period. End of story. And that's why you don't see Draymond scoring a ton. That's why Draymond is, who he is. I mean, he hits shots sometimes at big times when needed, but that's going to be a big loss. And I think there's going to be. I think there was already going to be a big Sacramento contingency traveling to Oakland, excuse me, San Francisco for these games. But now with the Kings 2-0 ticket prices cheaper than they are at Golden One, I think there could be a Kings takeover down in San Fran at the Chase Center.
Yeah, it's a great point. Obviously, with the cheaper ticket prices, there's going to be a lot of Kings fans there. I expect there to be a lot more Kings fans than there were Golden State Warriors fans at Golden One Center. Everyone was expecting a Warriors takeover at Golden One. It didn't happen. So the Kings can just get 10-15% of their fans into that building, then and that'd be a great showing for the road team.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. We talk about this Draymond situation and what happened. One, let's go to this aspect. Steve Kerr. So, when Grant and I were doing the post-game show last night, Grant's like, what point does Steve Kerr get control of this? And my response to that was, we are far past that point. And Steve Kerr in the post-game press conference said that he didn't even see the play. Now, he didn't see it live. He didn't see it on the replays. It was clear as day if you were watching the telecast that they were playing it on replay in the arena because you could hear the crowd going crazy during the reviews outside of the times Draymond was doing stuff. But, I kind of look to Steve Kerr to a degree on this because that's just a bad look. I mean, especially with what Draymond did to Domas.
Yeah, that's an absolutely garbage excuse from Steve Kerr, who never really seems to know what's going around on with his team, because we see the things with load management stuff. He acts completely clueless when he's asked about that, and then this situation, you can't tell me that with all of the replays they showed that he wouldn't be interested in seeing what happens. Because if you're going to defend your guy, you might want to know that he's on the right or the wrong side of the story. So
Right. Right.
it's pretty embarrassing behavior from him, but it's not a surprise to me at this point.
Right. And what was interesting too in his comments, he said that one of his assistant coaches came up to him and said Draymond might be ejected. So Steve Kerr's entire focus was getting the team ready for that if that situation was to happen. And it's like just exactly what you said. You hit the nail on the head, Connor. Wouldn't you want to see that at that point? If I come and tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, I think Fox is going to get ejected, aren't you going to say, okay, why? If you really didn't see it, like it doesn't make sense. But besides Steve Kerr, I think there's one element here, and I'm one of those guys. I do not like to harp on officiating unless it is something blatant, unless it is something that costs the team a game. But I thought the officials were partially to blame for the game getting to the point that it did last night. I thought the second quarter was wildly inconsistent. I thought there was some things that were completely blown. And then you see the third quarter where it's getting more and more physical, yet only about 50% of the time are they calling, real physical fouls. And the other 50%, there's like, wait, what? He barely touched him. So how do the player, it gives the players mixed signals.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Zarba was the crew chief, I believe, for that game, and he's recognized as one of the best in the NBA usually. And I thought they handled the Sabonis situation and the Draymond Green situation pretty well with the ejection. And I don't really understand the technical to Sabonis because it's like a physical thing. You don't usually see technical fouls for something like that. You kind of expect like a flagrant one, but a technical foul is usually for lashing out or something. So I don't know why he was given that, but other than that, I thought they handled it well under the pressure with Adam Silver watching. They made the right call, I think.
Yeah. Well, the explanation on Domas was it was not a basketball play. So it wasn't something that you would normally do in the motion of playing the game, grab onto somebody like that, especially if you're on the ground. But at the same time, it certainly was not anything that should have instigated that type of response. But I guess what I'm saying when I say mixed signals were sent, there was a time in the second quarter where Draymond thought that there was late in the second. Draymond thought that the refs missed a call or the ball should have gone the other way and the Kings should have been inbounding. And Malik Monk is trying to get the ball from the referee. And the referee is standing there listening to Draymond just complain about the call. And the referee holds the ball. And then there's another pause, and he finally gives it to Malik. And guess what happens? The defense resets, and Herter throws an errant pass in. It gets stolen in a layup right there on Golden State's end of the floor. And then you see these guys banging around and getting all this latitude. And then something like that happens. And, well, I should say they start calling touch fouls at that point, yet you've already allowed them to get super physical. Like, they just lost control of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, we saw the foul on De'Aaron Fox where he kind of imitated Jordan Poole, who kind of just fell to the ground and then kind of threw the ball towards him and stuff. But anything involved with Draymond Green, I don't know if it's a secret or not, but there's a different rule book when it comes to officiating him and games that he's in, because his leash is a lot longer than a lot of the players around the league. With, like, let's say Malik Monk earlier in the season just kind of said something to the ref once and it's an immediate technical, but Draymond's given that leash to kind of run his mouth as long as he wants until it turns into something malicious, is what we saw last night.
Yep, exactly. Well, again, news broke by Connor that Draymond reports out there he is suspended for Game 3. My first reaction to this, just from a basketball sense, is this favors the Kings not just because Draymond's not playing, but it means the Warriors may have to go smaller, and that is the Kings can go either way, right? they can go small and be very successful, but then on the flip side, they can go big and, tear it up on the inside. I mean, which way would you look to play that if you're Mike Brown?
I would go big. Just imagine having Alex Len and Domantas Sabonis on the court at the same time with Kevon Looney, and then who's going to be the second guy? Is Andrew Wiggins going to be guarding Sabonis? I mean, it's going to be allow for a huge mismatch, and I'm expecting Sabonis after this news breaking to have a huge game, and he should be a beast with everything that he has and his skill set. And after the game he had in game 2, I'm expecting him to just dominate down low game 3.
Yeah, he should. I mean, we haven't seen that Domas game, right? We haven't seen it yet. Yesterday was a little bit more like Domas, but the Warriors, credit to them, they've done a really good job of taking away the spots where the Kings like to initiate their offense. So this may be a game where the Kings can take advantage of that and exploit that and, start their offense, run it the way they want to. And speaking of which, we've got to talk a little bit about Keegan Murray. So Keegan has had 2 scoreless first halves in back-to-back games. He's played minimal minutes, to be honest with you, compared to what he's played in the regular season. I think last night he played 16 minutes. What do you do with Keegan Murray at this point, Connor?
I say you don't do anything. I think Grant said the same thing. When you're up 2-0 and you're winning games, and Keegan Murray's not really the reason why they've lost leads or lost games, then there's no reason to change it. And obviously, people talk about inputting Trey Lyles into the starting lineup. Obviously, he had a great game 1, but he was a non-factor last night. So Keegan Murray, obviously Mike Brown's not giving him that same leash that he had with him in the regular season. If he doesn't hit his first couple shots, he's going to be sitting right next to Mike Brown and Doug Christie the rest of the game.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. So I agree that you don't do anything with the starting lineup. That would be a stupid move, but it's exploited part of Keegan's game that we've talked about most of this season, that it's one-dimensional. He cannot create his own shot, or he has struggles creating his own shot, and he needs another guy to get him open, basically, whether it's off a screen, whether it's off dribble penetration and a kick out to him for a set shot. He's a set shooter. Let's call it what he is. And he's an excellent set shooter. That doesn't mean that's what he's going to be for his career. Remind you, he's just a rookie. But in this series, that's been taken away. And so offensively, nothing is there for them. Now, on the flip side, he hasn't been bad on defense. I think Grant mentioned, he was in the positive in the plus minus stat. So that tells you that, he is contributing in some sense. But you look at a guy like Kevin Huerter, look, the same thing has happened to Kevin Huerter in this series. They have taken away those looks that Kevin normally gets off of the dribble handoffs, off of the down screens. But he's adjusted, and he's shown that, he can somewhat create his own shot, and he's realized that those opportunities are not there. And in game 2, he played, I thought, on both sides of the ball, an excellent game.
Yeah, I was just going to bring it up that Keegan Murray, he's just a rookie, and if he can develop in the next 2-3 years of his career and do what Kevin Huerter's done in this series, it's a perfect example to model when the Kings are known as a one-dimensional team, 3-point shooting, but
right.
We saw with Kevin Huerter, the 3-point shots not falling. He gets into the paint and does the floaters, the little mid-ranges, when the dribble handoffs with Sabonis have been practically non-existent in this series. And the same thing with Malik Monk. Obviously, his shot's falling, but he does a great job attacking the rim as well.
Yep.
Especially in this series, he's had some great finishes at the rim.
Yeah, he has, and I think that goes for Fox too. I mean, they both have to continue doing that, because especially now that Draymond's going to be out of game 3, the Golden State Warriors really don't have shot blockers. They have bigs. They don't have shot blockers. Looney is not going to block a shot. That's a guy that you can elevate over. Both Fox and Monk are athletic enough to do so. Same thing with Kuminga. So I think, if they can get to the line, get the Warriors into the penalty early, frustrate them. But that's the caveat. The Kings have to make their free throws, and they were not great from the free throw line last night.
No, they weren't, and a lot of that was Domantas Sabonis really struggling at the line. Part of that probably due to him being a little rattled from the whole situation and stuff. You saw he missed both
Right.
after the flagrant and stuff, but obviously, I mean, this team's been a pretty good free throw shooting team overall. I expect them to bounce back. I expect them to attack just as much, if not more, with Draymond Green out to the rim. So, and a question that kind of stems from that is, what do you think about De'Aaron Fox? It's been a question throughout his entire career with him and the amount of threes that he shoots. Do you think that he's taking too many in this series? He's obviously making a lot, but especially with Draymond out in Game 3, do you think he should attack the paint more?
So great question, Connor. So with De'Aaron, it's tough to say early in the game. I'm really split on that because the Warriors' game plan was to go under the screen. So, especially early. And if that shot's there for De'Aaron, the way the Warriors have been defending otherwise, I think he has to take that shot. Now, if it's not, if he takes 3, 4, and they're not falling, then maybe you start trying to do something else. But at the same time, you don't force that shot either. Now, late in the game, I think De'Aaron's been much better about that, and you've seen him attack more. You've seen him get to the spots that he wants to get to, in the lane, that 17-footer free throw line extended. But, he does shoot the occasional 3 when his feet are set. So I'm okay with it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle because in fourth quarter anything goes with this guy. He can do whatever he wants. Basically, we've seen the little floater he has at the elbow that's unguardable in the fourth quarter. He seems to
Yep.
do it 2 or 3 times a game, and then we have seen him hit big threes in this series so far, especially when his feet are set and he's open. I don't have any problem with him taking those, but it's the ones kind of in transition pull-ups that maybe you could have a better look. Maybe they've missed a couple in a row. Then it's time to get to the rim and get to the free throw line.
Exactly. Well, we are here on the crossover. That's Connor Danzy. I am Ryan in Sacktown. Connor broke the news. Draymond Green is going to be suspended for Game 3. So no Draymond Green for his stomp on Domas Sabonis in Game 2. So we're talking Fox. We've talked Monk. We've talked Herter. We've talked Keegan Murray. Let's really quickly touch on Davion Mitchell. Last night, it had to be probably, I would say, his best game of the season outside of that San Antonio game early in the season. I can't think of another game he's played any better with 14 points and the stifling defense on Steph Curry.
Yeah, he's won a national championship, and he said post game that hitting that 3 in the corner at the end was the biggest shot of his career. So, I mean, that speaks volumes to how important it was to him and stuff. And I know he was wide open and stuff, but I don't know if I was the only one, but I've seen Davion Mitchell in this series. He was just not bringing anything on offense in game 1, and I would just kind of cringe when he would take a jump shot because unless it was that mid-range crossover that he's good at, you kind of knew it wasn't going to go in. But I give him a lot of credit. In game 2, he bounced back, he kept the confidence, and he made a huge shot for this team that was one of the biggest shots in this team's history in the last 20 years.
You know what? Where do you put that? I think it's probably. I mean, it's probably a Napes question, but it's probably a top 20 shot in franchise history. I've got to think because it iced the game. The crowd exploded, and he just looked a lot of times. Davion. He doesn't look comfortable on offense. He just doesn't. It looks forced. Even how do you put this? Like, you can be like book smart, right? Like, this is exactly how you do it. Or you can be like a little bit street smart. Like, and you've done it a few times. You get it. You get what they give to you. You play off of that. And a lot of times on offense, Davion, he's more of the book smart. Okay, I need to be right here. The ball goes here if I get to there, and he looks very robotic out there. But last night, and even in game 1 to a degree, he looks more in the flow of things. And, he's giving what they get, or, he's taking what they give. and it's really benefited him. And if you have comfort out there, especially in that atmosphere, playoff atmosphere, it's a completely different game. And you look at the or you look at the trade deadline, I should say, not the mid-season, but you look at the trade deadline and all this talk about Davion possibly being a piece that obviously would be moved if the Kings needed to, make a bigger move. But you have to wonder if in the back of Mike Brown's mind, in the back of, Monty McNair's mind, look, like we are going to need Davion in the playoffs for the exact reason on defense that we've seen what he's done to Steph Curry. I mean, name me 2 or 3 times in this series that Steph Curry has gotten a wide open look.
Yeah, it's a great point. He hasn't had really any windows to get his normal numbers. And I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Steph Curry has been pretty poor in the clutch in these first 2 games of the playoffs. And that has a lot to do with Davion Mitchell not giving him anything easy. He chases him around screens. He's a pest out there. He's a Patrick Beverly with a much better temper. And if he can start to develop an offensive game like we've seen, I know it's just been 2 games, but that's a really good backup point guard to have. And he's playing like he did at the end of his rookie season, but obviously in much more meaningful games.
Yeah, absolutely, Con man. Again, this is the crossover. I am Ryan in Sacktown. That's Connor Danzy. As it says below us, Draymond Green suspended for Game 3. Connor, was there any type of fine that came along with that?
I'm not sure from what I've seen so far, but
Not that it matters per se, but would be interested to see the statement on that. Well, we head to San Francisco. Okay, I mean this team's riding high. They've got to feel like when I look at the Kings' body of work over the last 2 games, I said this on the postgame show last night. I don't think the Kings are playing their A game. I think they've stepped up to the level of the Warriors for sure, but the Kings, they haven't been the Kings. And Grant made the point of the night and said, well, the Warriors, they're not getting that. They've not had that signature run, but either really have the Kings either. Like, do you attribute that to the style of play, or what would you grade? Not saying that the Kings, not grading based off the Kings being up 2-0, but just off of how the Kings normally play. How would you grade their play the last 2 games?
yeah, I'd start with the defensive end. They've played A+ defense for
Amen.
their standard this season by far.
Yep.
With what Mitchell's done, Herter's done, and all of them, they held the Warriors to just 100 and something points, which is a lot of us were expecting 120s, 130s, and then offensively, I'd say B+ because you're getting your stuff from De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk, and then Herter and Sabonis chipped in Game 2, some good scoring and stuff, but Keegan Murray's shot, he hasn't made a 3 in this series. Kevin Herter's not getting the looks that he usually gets, and if they can start hitting, I think Herter was 2 of 9 from 3. If you can go 4 of 9, Keegan Murray can knock down a couple. That's when this team becomes really dangerous and turns from that B to a solid A.
Yeah, great point there. So the Warriors, they are first time in Steph Curry's tenure in Golden State, in the first time since 2007 that they have been down 2-0 in a playoff series. But with the caveat, this team, other than this situation, they have been in pretty much every situation you can think of and overcome. So I'm certainly not counting them out. I do think Game 3 is the deciding game of the series. I really do. I don't think you can. Even if the Kings lose Game 3, win Game 4, and have 3 games to win 1, I'm really uneasy. That starts bringing me back to 2002, especially because it was the defending champs that year. It's the defending champs this year. But I think if the Kings win in Game 3, I don't I think it's a sweep. I really do, and it's really hard to think about those words coming out of my mouth, but I'm saying it.
Yeah, it's incredible. I think we know this isn't the Warriors team of past seasons and dynasties. I'm not saying that it's the end of the dynasty and stuff because they can go in the Chase Center, win two, and the series is tied, and we're back at the drawing board with 3 game series. But with what the Kings have done, if you win game three, which now you're given a little bit of a bonus with the green suspension, it's 3-0, and I'm not sure a team has ever come back from 3-0. I don't want to put that into the world or anything, but
Right.
obviously, if the Warriors win both, then this is a different story. If the Kings, they just need to win one game. I don't care if it's game three or game four. Obviously, you'd expect more better performance in game three, but if you're going back 3-1, like you said, 2 of those 3 games would be at home, then really there's nothing to lose. But an interesting dynamic that I kind of thought of was the Kings came into the playoffs as a team that was playing with house money, that really, no matter what they did, it was going to be considered a successful season for most people. But
Mhm.
now that they're up 2-0, do you think they're playing with more pressure? And now that maybe they're the team that's expected to come out of this series, that could maybe change the flow or the confidence?
I don't think so. I don't think they're I think Mike Brown has them so laser focused on themselves. I don't think they're listening to the national chatter. I don't think they're paying attention to the noise. I think they are in their own bubble right now. So I don't think it is. The only thing when I think of pressure, when I talk about having 3 to win 1 with 2 of them at home, is the Kings' home record this season. That is what worries me. Because if the Kings were to lose game 5, and I know we're playing scenarios here, and Matt says that um, he thinks that it is the Kings in 5. Um, but if the Kings were to lose game 5, I just don't think game 6 is getting won and we're at 7. So I don't know. It's a weird thing. But to answer your question, no, I think we would have seen that by now, Connor, after game 1, don't you?
Yeah, it's a good point. Obviously, this team has done basically no wrong in the first 2 games of the series. I mean, obviously, they haven't played perfect or even a basketball, but there's nothing that they've done that really concerns me into the fact that if they get to a game 6 and 7 and stuff, that's when you're gonna start to get really worried. But that's when the series is completely different than what it is and where it's at right now. It's 2-0 Kings, and with a golden opportunity on Thursday, then you go up 3-0, you're sitting pretty.
Yeah, and Grant says it's very cliche. A series does not start until the road team wins a game. I think the series started with that stomp to Domas. That is what started the series and possibly started a rivalry. We'll see. I am interested to see if there's any, kind of leftovers or anything that boils over from that entire situation. Obviously, it'll be a little bit more toned down with Draymond out, but um, this one's already started to me. And you look at the Kings, right? You have the coach of the year in Mike Brown. You possibly have the executive of the year in Monty McNair. You have 2 All-Stars, one of which who was not even first ballot All-Star. He was a replacement for Steph Curry. Um, you have this amazing fan base that has put no expectation on what this team is supposed to do in these playoffs, and that all of that combined makes for the perfect storm of just a very fun atmosphere. Like, let's just go out and have fun, and see, let's roll the dice, let's see what happens. And I think that's what they're doing. And it's not like Denver where Malone and Jokic, it's like, you guys, you've been the MVP probably 3 years in a row, can't win a title so far. Like, you got to win a title this year, something's going to happen. It's not like Phoenix, who's all in with Durant, if they don't win this year. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a completely different dynamic that Sacramento's working with.
Yeah, I saw the graphic that TNT put up of the players on the roster that were age 26 or below, and that's basically your entire core
Yeah.
with Sabonis, and maybe he's a couple years older, but Harrison Barnes is really the only key player that's really getting up there with age. But obviously, we're expecting this to be the start of not just a 1 year thing, but multiple years and multiple trips to the playoffs. But I mean, why not now? Why not? I mean, you never know. This team knows it more than any other fan base that you're not just going to guarantee to get a playoff appearance next year. Why not do it this year when you have the pieces? I'm not saying they're going to win a championship or anything, but why not take advantage of the opportunities, the breaks this team has had, and maybe put together something special?
Amen, Connor. So on a funny note, Chris Maddox was on Jim Rome's show today, and he said that he thinks the Lakers are the best team in the West right now. He's such a respected journalist, and I think he usually does good work, but that was almost as laughable to me as Cowherd's comments today about Sacramento.
Yeah, I mean, those comments were just embarrassing, saying that the Kings, they get a better whistle than other teams. Maybe he fell asleep and he was thinking about the Lakers when that's the scary thing. If the Kings match up with the Lakers in the next series, that could bring back all sorts of demons and stuff for this fan base, and you would really hope it doesn't repeat with officiating and stuff like that.
Yeah, but LeBron does not look like LeBron right now, number one. AD, always fragile. Look, he got a stinger in game one, and you're wondering, okay, did he dislocate his shoulder? I know the Lakers finished the season strong, but they are not the best team in the West. That was a huge overreaction. But, even if the Kings do get past the Warriors, I would give, and Grant said last night, a 50-50 chance to beat whichever team comes out of that series, the Grizzlies and the Lakers. I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves and stuff, but having the Warriors in the first round is about as big of a test as you can have in the West until maybe you get faced with the Suns in the Western Conference Finals. I think that the Warriors, they're a championship team. They're defending champions. What better test? We don't want to just assume they're going to go on and win this series, but if you can get past the Warriors, like we were saying, why can't you win the second round? You'll probably be favored in the second round, and then
Yep.
you can go from there.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, we are going to get ready and wrap up. You want to do this again before game 3? Give our predictions?
Sure, I'm down.
All right, cool. Well, breaking news as Connor broke it. Draymond Green is suspended for game 3. So the NBA did the right thing. A lot of people get ready for the talking heads tomorrow because most people were saying he should not be suspended. I completely agree with it. And it's not because we covered the Kings. It was the right move. I think Connor is in that same camp, but this will turn an entire page of new media onto this topic and this series. So, Connor, thank you so much for joining me tonight, buddy.
Thanks for having me. A lot of fun. Anytime you want me.
Absolutely. Thanks, buddy. All right. So that is Connor. He is the man. I so appreciate him. He knows his stuff so much, and he's just fun as hell to talk to. Anyways, real quick thing. Grant and I will be at Soul Street on Thursday, 16th and L. We're going to be doing a live watch party for game 3. We're going to be doing the pregame, halftime, and postgame shows from there. Come out, come hang with us, come have dinner, come watch the game. And yeah, just have a good time. So free admission, no cover charge, don't need an advance ticket. Come and hang with us. Soul Street, 16th and L. Soul is spelled Seoul. So wanted to let you know about that. Stay tuned or stay locked into our social media accounts for updates, but hope to see you there. Big thanks again to Connor for joining the crossover tonight. Have a great night. We will be back tomorrow to wrap things up and give our predictions for game 3. Until then,